One more road. folks. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to give folks a couple more minutes to arrive. I would recommend everyone scooch forward as you feel comfortable so that you have the best view possible of the images tonight. You're doing pretty good. I don't see anybody sitting in the back, which is very not Episcopalian, so we're doing great so far. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This is an exciting evening for Christ Church. You've probably heard me say this before, but we began a master plan process in 2019. I was a very new rector, and I really wanted to know what it was going to cost us to keep this place up. And I was a little daunted about what that price tag could be, just without any hard data to look at. And so we started looking at that question. And as we did, we thought, well, if we're going to be doing some of that needed infrastructure planning and caretaking, why don't we also look at how our spaces at Christ Church help or hinder the mission to which we feel called? And so it's been a really incredible journey. It had a few interruptions, namely COVID, and here we are, almost 5 years later, and I'm just excited to share with you the master plan for Christ Church. To get us started tonight, I would like to welcome Debbie and Rush Deacon, who are our capital campaign chairs, who will lead us in prayer.
Be with you. O God, creator of every good and holy thing, you have revealed your glory in the life of Christ Church. Come among us who now work to preserve and enrich this beacon of beauty, safety, and love. Unite and guide us in our efforts, that we might show forth the light of Christ to our community for years to come. Through the love of our Lord Jesus Christ, who with you and the Holy Ghost lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen. Kate said we could say a few words. So I just want to tell y'all how excited I am. I've gotten a sneak preview of all these designs, and as Kate said, we started this in 2019, so it's been a long time to come to this conclusion of our master plan, and I think everybody's going to be very pleased with it. So anyway, I will let my co-chair say a few words.
So when Kate asked if we would co-chair the capital campaign, I asked Debbie, I said, are you willing to co-chair this campaign? And she was, well, who's going to be my co-chair? I said, me? Okay, I'll do it anyway. But no, we're excited. As Deb said, we had the opportunity to be involved in the process as we've gone through the planning stage and the architectural renderings and drawings. And I love it, the open theme that you'll hear about here. You'll see our open doors back here. You'll see a design that has a very open feel to it. I like to think of it as expressed in terms of honoring the past and building for the future. The past you'll see in terms of what we're doing, relative to what you see out there in the narthex. And developing the future is exciting for me with 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren that attend here. I think of it as what do we want this church to look like and be like for my grandchildren. And so I'm excited about that. I hope you're as excited as Debbie and I are for the plans that have been made and the future that we have. So with that, let me bring Jeff, Jennifer. Oh, back to you, okay.
I have a carefully rehearsed agenda. So none of this would be possible without a lot of hard work from a lot of people. And later on in tonight's meeting, I will give thanks to all the folks who have been working on this. For now, this is the exciting part. We have just an amazing design and engineering team, many of whom are with us tonight. And so I'm excited to turn it over to Jennifer Herron and Jeff Horton and Martin Smith and Mary Nell, Jennifer Herron Horton Architects and Environmental Design Group.
It's good to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. Ever since 2019, we have been receiving really great input, and we appreciate all your time. And the feasibility study was very helpful as well, so thank you all. And with all of your efforts, this is where we've gotten here today to the final master plan, and we're excited to show you. So you want to orient them and start? Oh, sorry. Okay.
So we're going to start tonight with a floor plan, and this project has always been kind of working from the inside out, and so I've got an overview screen just to orient you before I go straight into the floor plan. So here we're in this building in the church. The parish hall is right in this orientation. Scott Street is right up front, and then your parking lot is on 6th. So I'm going to flip to the floor plan, and it's going to turn on you. So Scott Street will be at the bottom of the screen. So here's Scott Street. We're in the church sanctuary, and then this is the parish hall. So one of the biggest moves we've made on this master plan is what you'll see, or what you won't see, is the 1980s edition that's lining Scott Street. Through all of the feedback that we've received, there was a strong interest of looking at the possibility of removing that and restoring the historic facade of the parish hall, and you'll see that in the renderings. So this portion of the building was removed. We left pieces of it, and then we were able to relocate the staff offices in an area, this orange block that is currently the nursery. So all the staff offices will be located in that orange block. And as you enter the building, you'll be able to circulate back into the sanctuary within a new addition that connects back to the parish hall. The parlor, which was in the 1980s building, will move into what is currently the coffee hour. So that space will still be enclosed. So what was a large addition in the front is now this kind of L-shaped addition, and that's the only addition that that we're proposing for the relocation in the front. As we move around the building, the other major addition that we did is we've changed Park Hall by opening this exterior wall so that it can feed out into what we're considering a new plaza that's going to be part of the parking lot, but it's also an area to gather. I'll let Martin talk about that when we get to the landscape. So as you're inside the building, you can see that the circulation remains the same. We've relocated the stair that is kind of impeding your flow as you enter through these doors currently, these historic doors into the parish hall. The stairs have moved to the side, and the accolades have been moved over into the main church. We've increased the scope or the size of restrooms. We have women's restroom, men's restroom. We've also created a family or unisex restroom, which will have a baby changing station, and it'll be just a single use. The bishop's room stays the same, and the classroom in the back gets reorganized. The dividing wall comes out, and so that will become a large classroom for nursery or children's ministry.
What we're trying to do is to, like Russ said, open and invite. So we have this Scott Street here where you can access through. These are the main doors, all glass addition right here, as well as access into the park hall. Like this is where the art can be shown. This is classrooms. This is also a gathering space. But there is a covered entry here, and both of these are ADA accessible. We're also looking at the kitchen, and we've inventoried the existing equipment, and there are a couple of pieces that need to be replaced, but we're going to make that look a lot nicer. Also, with this dock access here, we're trying to screen it from this entry plaza access into Park Hall. I'm going to go to
I think the next screen is one.
All right. So I love the honoring the past. What was it? Designing for the future or developing for the future. I think that's a great motto. And as the beautiful rendering up front, a very historic rendering of the church in its original state, which would show the elevation. And it had these really, of course, back in that time, very ornate gardens, walls and so forth. So, we were looking at that. That's not really today, the ornate gardens and upkeep. And it's just, so we wanted something very fresh and clean, but also simple, easy to take care of, but become a portal or an identification. Any exterior improvements showed us the inclusiveness and the transparency into the church. So the two areas, this is the master plan as we flip this again, so Scott's over here. We're going to concentrate on this area where the 1980s addition went away, and then coming out of Park Hall and that kind of plaza space. And then in the future master plan, we looked at all the way around the streetscape and everything else as well. But we're going to look at these two areas in a little bit more detail. So first of all, that main entry coming in off of Scott, and the street does fall away, and if you look at the original rendering, there's a wall out with the gates and everything else. So we'll take the stone from that structure and build these low stone walls. I think they're higher here and they're basically a grade here, and there's steps that come up so that you spill out of the parlor and you've got this outdoor space. We love the idea of the glass, so the transparency of in and out and feeling welcome, and also having the type of event space that also spills outside and even can be used in this lawn area on both sides. These are smaller native ornamental trees, so they don't overpower the architecture, but just kind of help balance it for a scale. We're thinking in the white flowering colors of white buds, dogwoods, and that realm. And then so the Park Hall Plaza, same thing. You've got this loading dock, so it's elevated a little bit, which is nice because it'll be elevated about 3 steps off of the parking area. So you have this space. The design is so that we don't lose parking spaces, but we call them kind of like flexible spaces. They feel like they're more pedestrian, pedestrian plaza instead of a parking space, because we want to pull the asphalt up in that area right out front. And I think the renderings are showed a little bit better, and put porous pavers down so that we are also, everything that we're doing, we're trying to think of sustainability and something that ties back to the mission of this church. So keep that in mind. I love your native plants that you have out in the parking lot. So following some of those themes are very important. But so you come out and you can utilize this. So you can really close it off and have large gatherings there, hang string lights over the top, and get some trees in and put the porous pavers in so that it feels like a place. We call those kind of like festival streets that are utilized for people gathering, but also still function for a vehicular type of access. Yeah, let's go to the renderings and build some questions, maybe.
So this is what the Scott Street elevation will look like as we're proposing. You can see kind of the 1980s buildings. This is an elevation from Scott Street, so you can see the existing church building, but now without the 1980s building, you can see the parish hall. So our plan would be to restore the facade of the parish hall back to its original splendor. And there is a small addition in the front. This is a glass addition that will allow people to see into the church, and then the church to be able to see out to the street. We've added a colonnade that connects back to the historic church, and this would also be, we would salvage the stone that's on the 1980s building to put on this addition so that it feels somewhat historic. So we're trying to make this transition from the historic church to a clear, glassy entrance to the historic again. So we've kind of tried to create this rhythm of additions that feels more natural and more original to the historic church.
And what's really cool is that this is the existing, all of this is existing, and you get to see it. I mean, we kept, as we walked in, the existing entry now, we're like, yeah, that is, we're looking up trying to see all the detail of the church, and this is it, and it's really incredible. Even the crosses of the hatching of the brick pattern on this one is so, it just kind of unfolds itself to the community, and you get to see it from the street. And I know there's doors here to the different rooms, but we're gonna go back with the different historic drawings, and we're gonna put the windows back like they were. This is in the stage area of the second floor, so we're gonna go back and put the windows there. And these are the stairwells, the existing stairwells, these windows. So we're gonna go back and put windows in those places as well. So it's really wonderful to see this building just kind of expose itself again to the community, and it's painted. A lot of times we've received some questions about, can you take the paint off, and it would really be damaging to the brick. So we have an opportunity to select the new paint color for the brick, and then this glassy piece is an entry that is, I think, welcoming to the street as well. And like Martin said, this is that stone wall that you see along the front. And this is where that plaza is, where you go up to the entry.
You can see it a little bit here. You can see that stone wall starts at grade, and then it goes down. So this would be the entrance plaza to the new addition off of Scott Street. A new entrance sign.
And then here's that other glassy addition. And what was interesting is that we had a wonderful conversation with the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program, Ralph Wilcox. And we didn't want to do anything that would jeopardize anything for the future National Register nomination, historic tax credits. And so we got his opinion. We wanted to know, is this going to work out for any future funding or nominations? And he says it's perfect. It's minimal touches and it's glass. And it's as soon as we get rid of that 1985 edition, it becomes eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. So that was good to hear.
I think we have one more rendering. This is kind of a detailed shot of the renovation to Park Hall.
So this is the south elevation. This is where the dock is, loading dock is now. Park Hall. These are the windows in the gymnasium. So this is an entry here into this glassy structure with the plaza out front, the trees with the street lights.
Yeah, so as Martin mentioned before, this paving would change in front of Park Hall. It can still be used for parking, but during events or special occasions, the parking can be blocked, and then you have a nice plaza area to spread out on, down a few steps, and then we can set tables up at events. So I think it's gonna be pretty exciting. This is a canopy that comes out to drop off at the street, so that you can drop folks off right here, and then it's all at grade for accessibility. So from this canopy, you can enter straight into Park Hall.
And all the handicap accessible parking spaces are lined up right there, so it's very easy. So don't let the steps are just taking care of some of the grade changes that we have out there and tying back into existing conditions. Hopefully, I mean, by description earlier, the renderings, how simple, how the simplicity. That's what I love about it, because we have a beautiful historic structure. We don't want to overpower that with the exterior or the landscape. We just want to accentuate the beauty of it, but also play a homage to the original renderings of that garden space out front. It's really identical, the rectilinear. It's just a different style, which is a style that we're moving towards, against the historic or the past. And I think it fits the mission and the direction the church is going. The Episcopal Church, for sure. I think it really is a wonderful, tasteful addition to the entry and inclusiveness of this facility.
So this is the fun part, but I also want to mention that a lot of work has gone into evaluating our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems at the church. And included in our project are several behind-the-scenes projects that are a little less sexy than these beautiful images. They include long overdue updates to our HVAC systems, fire detection in the church, a security system for our campus that is of the 21st century, security lighting outside. What I can tell you is that since we have had a fairly long process here, I have every faith that we have looked under every stone when it comes to these questions. And so behind these images is also quite a bit of work that in some ways, some of which is long overdue, and it's just things that we need to do to be good stewards of this campus. And so I just want to mention that as well. I think what I'd like to do at the moment, I was thinking about doing this later, but maybe now is the time for Q&A about the design in particular, while it's fresh on our minds. And so if you have a question, I invite you to call it out. I'll call on folks, and then I'll repeat your question into the microphone so that everybody can hear it. Does that sound good? I think John had his hand up first.
Will we get to see a detailed rendering of the landscaping? And I'm saying this because I'm an urban planner, and I have learned that there's an awful lot of really bad landscaping, and even with the best intentions, landscape architects can do atrocious things. And I want to just, what I see looks nice, okay? I'm just a native, a little bit suspicious.
So John, who's an urban planner, and this is a very informed question, is asking about a detail of the landscaping to come.
It's, you're seeing the simplicity of it, so it's not going to be overdone at all. I'm trying to limit our plant palette. But I do love what y'all have done with the native plants in the parking lot. Honestly, the more detailed aspect of that would come in a later phase of the project. Right now, it's really this creating space. But you're, there in the front, I mean, it's basically sod and ornamental trees.
Yeah, I guess part of what I'm thinking of, and if you need a reference on William White's The Social Life of Small Urban Spaces, it's a classic from the 1960s, and I would recommend it to anybody that's stuff. But you have to get the bones right, okay? And so a tree garden and trees are all for them, but you want to make sure you have suitable space. You want to make sure you have shade. You want to make sure that your spaces are comfortable for people. They don't deter people. It's amazing. Look in the downtown New York, you'll see some really badly done landscaping. Example, the stuff out in front of the way used to be Excelsior Hotel, Alex and Marriott. And there's some benches out there that nobody sits in because all the other things are wrong. And so there's no shade, there's no reference points right next to the street. And the money that was spent on putting the benches in was nobody ever sits in. And so I'm sorry if I sound good. I just want to look at it. I suspect you're talking about very nice things. I just want to have a good look at it.
Those details would be available for the congregation to review and give feedback for sure.
Thank you for that question. And I will also say, if you stand across the street, across Scott Street, and look at the parish house as it currently is, you'll notice it comes right up to the edge of the sidewalk. And one of the visions that we have here is restoring some of that green space that was here. The folks who were raised in this church talk about playing in all the green space around the church. And so that's part of our intention here, is to add usable green space that's welcoming and safe, right? We are a downtown church, and we've got to be thinking about things like that as well. Yes, Bill?
That's a north, looking at the church from the north side. And then the overview showed some kind of landscape that, that your entrance to the church, are y'all going to change that at all? The north steps leading up to the architect, it's shaded and no sun gets to it year round. And as it is right now, it's covered with rain and slippery. Older people have problems with the steps. It's and I don't know if there's that.
I can answer that, I think, unless you all want to.
Yeah, well, it was master planned in the overall master plan. What we're showing tonight is what we have identified as a phase one budget for the immediate fundraising and projects.
That's a great, I'm glad you raised that question, because this is phase one that we feel that we can do at this time. There are some things that didn't make it onto the final list for now, but they haven't fallen off our radar. We do have plans to take care of the limestone steps on the north side, as well as adding security fences around the HVAC units that are behind the hydrangeas and the shrubbery. It's hard to see from the street, but we've had a little bit of vandalism to those units, and so one thing we're going to do is add some discrete security fencing around that too. So yes, it's on the radar. Yes, Kathy?
ADA accessibility. Moving from into the parish hall building, there's a ramp down and a ramp back up. Is that going away?
Yes, the ramp is going away, and it took some doing. So, Kathy, if you've ever pushed a cart full of full water bottles, yes. So, so Jennifer and Jeff have figured out how to solve that very problem. Do you want to say what?
It requires moving the stairs, so that's a big move. And by moving the stair, there's no landing that you have to walk under. So we will raise this floor on both sides, so it'll be essentially a level transition.
Thank you.
Something about that too, because that was one of the items that we talked about with Ralph Wilcox, is that by moving the stair, are we jeopardizing anything for the church in the future for grants or anything? Can it still be nominated? He said that's a minor move. He understands that it's for circulation. It's totally fine.
Other questions? Yes, Marion?
So if you're in the parking lot, is to get into the church, can you walk in front of the parish hall into that glass area into the church? You have to go in through the parking lot.
The question is, how do you get to the church from the parking lot?
In the parking lot, there's a paved path and doors to enter straight from the parking lot. This is not covered because we want to restore this facade and not have any interruptions in front of it. So it's uncovered, but it is a paved path, and it's going to be level and accessible all the way to the doors.
And the second way, there's a second way in, or three ways, really. Right?
So the covered way in would be in through Park Hall. So you would come in this drop off. This is all covered. ADA accessible, and through these doors you would be in Park Hall, and then you could circulate back over to the church. And then we've added this front entrance off of Scott Street. So actually, this entrance will not be accessible because of the steps.
And for the few people who might worry about this, if we are bringing coffins into the church for a funeral, it's a clear path. And so, for all kinds of accessibility, it's a good design.
One also thing to point out is that this ramp will still exist in the new addition to grade up to the church.
So does that make sense? Once you go into the blue hallway there for circulation, that's enclosed and conditioned space. So once you enter through those glass doors, you are inside. But from the street, you can see through that you'll be able to see the close from the street, which we could originally.
Do this section here and rebuild it and have the archways of the windows all the way through.
And we do not have any plans to touch the close. That is sacred space. We're not re-landscaping it. We're maintaining it in its integrity as it is. Randy?
So it's early in the phase of the landscape, I understand that, but do you anticipate at this point that it will require landscaping service?
Everything requires landscaping service. I don't fool people anymore. I mean, but the simplicity of it is trying to make it as easy as you can.
And you gave a very inspirational talk at a previous meeting about the need to put in irrigation systems at the beginning, but our hope is that with the climate here, we will not have to rely on them too heavily. Am I representing that?
With your native plants, but if we're doing lawn, obviously that front entry, to keep it looking the way y'all want it to look, it'll have to be more conventional type of a landscape system. But I think that the combination of natives and kind of a formal type of a setting really plays off of itself and is really beautiful. So I think there is a combination that works.
Yes, Marianne.
Right now, there is a bus stop in front. Where would this bus stop be once this is done? And I know you have to work it out.
We are going to try to work that out, moving it a block in one direction or the other. Certainly we'll have to during construction. And we would hope that we could have a new home nearby, but not in front of our beautifully restored historic building. So that's on the list.
And going back to the overall master plan, we actually addressed the streetscape, the right-of-way with street trees and dealing with the bus stops and the aesthetics and so forth of those elements. So that was something that we all looked at and discussed as a team as well, and it is in the overall plan for the future. It was thought about.
So my question is, we have wonderful art exhibits here. Is they're going to be able to do that?
Park Hall will become our primary gathering space, including art gallery space. That's where coffee hour will be, meetings, art shows. And Jennifer and Jeff have design in mind to make that a more beautiful and more flexible space. I will also add that we've heard the cry of the people, and we know that moving tables up and down the elevator is difficult. And so our intention is to have table and chair storage on each floor, on the second floor and on the first. And so Park Hall would have its dedicated set of chairs and tables that can be pulled out and used. Yes, Joe David.
With regard to the security lighting, you try to minimize the impact of night sky pollution.
At this level, it's not something we're showing, but absolutely to follow y'all's the mission of the Episcopal Church, it's something that we're always thinking about. To keep the down lighting safe, secure, not overlit, and try to eliminate night.
And Reagan, of course, has asked about bird-friendly glass. So, yes, right.
So, in the earlier stages of this, there was talk about doing stuff on the second and third floor of Park Hall. Is that in the future phases?
That is in the future. So if you'll recall, when we gathered over several months and talked about all of our hopes and dreams, we came up with a price tag of about $8.8 million. We have brought this down through the genius of our design team to about $3.5 million. And so we decided with a smaller budget to do the most essential renovations first. That doesn't mean we can't add a coat of paint to the choir room and a few things like that, but for now, we're looking at the second and third floor into the future. And I would also say the undercroft, we have great dreams about the undercroft. Keeping its basement vibe, but perhaps expanding the concert venue a little bit. It is overflowing, which is a wonderful problem to have. And also the restrooms are atrocious down there, and there is no accessible entrance. And so I would think that the undercroft would be high on our list for a future phase. Yes?
The elevator.
The elevator. We really looked hard at the elevator question. And feel free to jump in, but so what I would say about that is the mechanical equipment that runs and the elevator itself are in good shape. And we looked at how we could have a bigger elevator shaft. Could we widen the one that we have? Could we add it on the outside of the building somehow? We looked at all those questions. And we concluded that the elevator that we have is probably of higher quality than a new elevator that we would put in. And because it's working well, we're going to keep it. Now we do have plans to refresh the inside, so it will feel like a different elevator, and you're not going to be hauling tables up and down. So it's never going to be a super fast elevator, but it's safe, it works well, and it will look better on the inside. Yes?
Have you eliminated the entrance on the Capitol Avenue? I don't see it on the photography.
You talking about the alley that goes in between? It's still there.
This one right here. There's a chapel.
Yeah, no, those are staying.
There's steps.
Yeah, there's still steps. We're not changing those steps. Is there anything we haven't talked about? Yes, Jay.
So there are going to be significant changes to gym, stage, second floor of that, for the future.
That will be the future, but what I will say is, well, as we restore those windows that go into the gym, you know, there's a crumbling plaster wall there now at the back of the stage that blocks the windows. That will come down, I assume, and that we will have natural light coming in from that side again. So for theater camp and for the times that we will need a stage, I think we'll be looking at a new curtain and things like that. But on a day-to-day basis, there will be natural light coming back through those windows. Yes, Kathy?
Heat and air upstairs.
Oh, let's talk about HVAC, my favorite topic. The building and grounds guys who are here, feel free to correct me, but I think I have a handle on this now. There were some difficult decisions to make about heating and cooling in the parish house. You may or may not know that we have two different systems that run the thing. One is a centralized system, and one is a decentralized system with individual units. Now, the centralized system has been on its deathbed for years. And every time we turn the cooling tower back on, we have to pray hard that it works. And in fact, if it goes kaput again, I don't know that there's anything we could do to fix it. And so we had to decide, do we decentralize the whole parish house, or do we centralize the whole parish house, or is there a hybrid solution? Because our decentralized units still have some life in them, we decided, let's keep using those, but we do desperately have to replace the cooling tower if we're going to cool the parts that run on that system. And so I think we've even ordered it now, or we're close to ordering it. And that's one of the big expenses that we really can only do through a capital campaign. So that's one of the necessary pieces that we really do have to take care of. Yes, Randy?
Tina's question is, $3.5 million, what's infrastructure and what's beautification?
I have that right here. Let me preface, that's a great question. So the question is, how much is inside renovation and how much is beautification on the outside? I want to be clear that tonight is not the launch of the capital campaign. I want to say that first. This is the completion of our master plan, and it was time to share that with you all. We are working behind the scenes on the capital campaign, so that's been really fun. We started that process. And so the budget numbers that I have, to answer your question, come from a complete detailed list of every single cost that we can think of that would go with this project, inside and out. And our wonderful consultants at Vandersall have kind of put those numbers together in a way that's digestible for us lay people when it comes to construction costs. The way they have figured it is the work inside the parish house and a few other things like that, fire detection and security and things like that, that comes to about 1.296 million. The opening outward beam, which is all the beautiful landscaping and that indoor-outdoor flexibility and all that good stuff, is close to $1 million. It's about 999,000. And then there's cost involved in making all of this happen. That's the language that our consultants are using, which I love. And that's about 1.2 million. And that's all the site surveys, contracts, insurance, all the things that it's going to take to make this happen. So again, we're at about 3.5 million total, down from the original 8.8. Now, I will also remind folks, because I know you all remember the results of the feasibility study, because it's right there in the front of your minds. We had come close to raising, the possibility of raising about $3 million, feeling confident in that fundraising goal through that feasibility study. We're confident that we can get there and a little bit further, using just what we can do as a community, but also exploring a few other sources of funding. I think it won't be hard for us, I don't think, to get to this, funding this project. And again, we're gonna phase some other things into the future, but we'll take a minute before we do that. Yes. That is also a great question about how long would it take us. What's that? The question is, how long would this take? And that is a great question. We have been working with Nabholz as our construction company to give us as close to hard numbers about costs as possible. They're very good at making estimates like that. And we've asked them some timeline questions. What I heard is if we did it all at once, 6 to 8 months, roughly. Now, that's the least expensive option if you do it all at once. The other option is to phase it out so that we'd still have access to Park Hall while the kids' space is being renovated, or we would stage things, and that does take longer and costs go up a little bit. I'm pretty excited about the possibility of doing it all at once. Now, we'll have access to our sanctuary. We are not changing anything in our sanctuary. It doesn't need it. But it does mean we would get creative about Sunday school, adult formation. Maybe we've been talking about how fancy could the porta potties be in the parking lot, things like that. I mean, your vestry is hard at work at some of these more difficult questions. But I think it would be really interesting to take those 6 to 8 months, hopefully 6, and really be intentional about how and where we gather while we're sort of in diaspora during construction. Maybe we have a Sunday school meeting that's at the rep. Maybe we use the Masonic Hall down the street. Maybe we meet in each other's homes. I think there are ways to be intentional about that time of disruption that could actually bring us a little closer together, and we're going through something together. So I'm super excited about getting creative about what this renovation phase could look like for us as a community, and hopefully keep the costs down as well. And again, we'll have access in here on Sundays, so that's the good thing. And there's a couple little bathrooms. I don't know if you know this. There are 2 little bathrooms on either side in this building, and I'm kind of excited about a little side DIY project to make those a little nicer, so that while we're, maybe if we don't have access to all the restrooms down the hall, we could be a little bit more welcoming with the restrooms that are in here. Yes?
So if we end up raising $6 million in this campaign, would we just reserve that money, or would we try to raise it?
I love that question. What if we overshoot our fundraising goal, or have some unexpected generous windfall in some way? And we are, believe me, we are exploring all the possible options of that we can think of. I think we would have some really great conversations if we went over 3.5 million. I would be interested, first of all, in setting some of that aside through conversation with vestry and finance and all the parish leadership, putting some of that into the endowment for taking care of our building well into the future. If we then had more left over from that, then I think we would start talking about the undercroft and the second and the third floor. Or we'd have that conversation about how do we prioritize. We do need, this is a little bit off topic, but we do need to establish what Porter Brownlee, who's our client representative, calls a sinking fund. It's not ominous, it just means we're setting money aside for the bigger expenses that come along with taking care of this place. And so we've really been trying to take care of this place through our operating budget, which works for a while until you need to replace a cooling tower or other big pieces of equipment, or say a roof. And so we need to be doing better planning about that sinking fund for the care of the place. So those are the conversations we would have, I think. But I really hope we have that problem to solve in the future. Are there other questions about the design or what's included or not included? Hearing none, I would like to thank some people. I think this is an important opportunity. First, of course, our amazing design team. They have been a dream to work with. So you've heard from Jennifer and Jeff and Martin Smith, and also Mary Nell Miskin, who's here tonight as well from the Environmental Design Group. We also have some amazing engineers, and they have been very patient with us. The countless emails that we've sent them about the minutiae of our HVAC equipment in particular. Noah Kinder and Eric Tarver with energy engineering consultants. I also want to say, when this first started, I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd never done a master plan before. And so a very brave group of people agreed to be on a master plan steering committee. That has evolved since 2019, but I'm forever grateful to Bob Bidwell and John Blackwood, Dan Carter, Chuck Clyatt, Bert Finzer, Jennifer Glasgow, Martha Jones, Floyd Martin, Alan Pettit, Joe Stanley, and Porter Brownlee. I do want us all to recognize in particular, there is a small but mighty Buildings and Grounds Committee at Christ Church. Joe Stanley, Alan Pettit, John Blackwood, and Bert Finzer. Now, these are the people who are crawling in the crawl space, checking out, like, how many fire extinguishers do we have? I mean, I cannot tell you the level of care and detail with which they are looking at this place and clocking things. And they meet once a month. It's my favorite meeting of every month. They're super fun, and they really have been part of the heart and soul of this whole project. And I mentioned this is not the kickoff to the capital campaign, but there is a leadership team that is already hard at work about how are we going to make this happen together. And so you've met your campaign co-chairs, Debbie and Rush Deacon, and there are several others that I'd like to name. Mary Busby is chairing the Advanced Gifts Committee. Jennifer Glasgow is chairing the Congregational Gifts Committee. Hannah Hooker is the Spiritual Emphasis Chair. Abby and Jay Jennings are chairing the Communications Committee. And then we have a trio powerhouse for the party planning aspect. That's Judy Trice, Will Trice, and Catherine Pryor. You'll see there are save the dates for the campaign kickoff, and because we're lucky, we get to do it at the Rep and have an evening at the Rep on November 7th. So there are save the date cards in the back, thanks to that trio. And now we've added Dustin Spencer as well as our campaign coordinator. So that's lots of fun, and I'm so grateful to all these folks who are giving up their time and talent already. Since I have the floor, I'll just say one more thing, which is that I'm so grateful that we are where we are in this process. in many ways, I see it as a logical step with what happened when Larry Benfield came all those years ago and he threw open the red doors to the church. The congregation was sort of ready for it and ready to work hard to turn this congregation didn't have a very bright future back then. And with all of you and him, started to turn that ship around. I think this is a sort of a physical manifestation of that work, that theology of opening, the theology of welcome, the theology of being part of the downtown community, not just welcoming the downtown community, everyone's fine to come in our doors, but really like we are here and we are in relationship with the downtown community. And so that's what all this opening up is all about. And it started all those years ago, and it's time now to sort of finish that work. And I think we see that represented in the architecture. All right, that's my soapbox. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for our design team who's been with us. We'll do it all again on Sunday if you want to come again. But this will also be on our YouTube page as well. So thank you all for coming.